Salams and welcome. Thank you for joining me in part number 11, where we look at the dimensions of Islam. Wonderful series of lectures by Mawlana Abdul Aleem Siddiqui Alayhi, the roving ambassador of Islam. And my thanks go to Sheikh Abdul Al-Qadiri Radawi, the president of the Imam Ahmad Rida Academy. And we're going through this fabulous book. Please get copies of this. There's 2 volumes, volume 1 and volume 2 behind me here. The back is falling down. So volume 2 of these books, we'll just see if we can keep it there. So two set volumes. I don't know if I can keep it over here. No. I don't have a shelf on which to put this. I'll just try and keep the book here. So that's volume 2 and this is volume 1. And you can get it from I'll just try and show you the beginning of the inner cover of the book. You can get it from the Imam Ahmad Rida Academy from Durban, South Africa. Durban is a wonderful city in the country called South Africa in the African continent. So anyone who's overseas or in any other country of the world, please contact the Imam Ahmad Rida Academy. Try and get copies of the book. You can probably order bulk copies, keep it as part of your school library, or give it out. And the intrepid entrepreneurs among the ulama, maybe they can translate this into different languages so that other people can also benefit from the words of wisdom of Mawlana Siddiqui Rahmatullahi. Right, so we are continuing with the lecture given in Tokyo, and we ended the last video with several quotations. It's a long one, that's why I want to keep it properly for today. It's by Berfold, what he's going to make a few thought-provoking observations from his book, The Making of Humanity, on page 202 and page 190. And I quote. There's quite a few quotations, so I'll begin each quotation with opening quote and end of quote. So let's start. It was under their successors at the Oxford School that Roger Bacon learnt Arabic and Arabic science. Neither Roger Bacon nor his later namesake has any title to be credited with having introduced the experimental method. Roger Bacon was no more than one of the apostles of Muslim science and method to Christian Europe, and he never wearied of declaring that knowledge of Arabia and Arabic science was for his contemporaries the only way to true knowledge. Discussions as to who was the originator of the experimental method are part of the colossal misrepresentation of the origins of European civilization. The experimental method of Arabs was by Bacon's time widespread and eagerly cultivated throughout Europe. Before I continue with the next quotation, he makes a very important point here. You see, it is the Arab civilization in Baghdad, the golden age of Islam, that gave rise to the scientific revolution. But the way the media portrays it, or the way the Western civilization portrays it, that no, it was Europe who gave science to the world. It was not Europe. In those days, Baghdad was a center of civilization while Europe was in the dark ages. In Baghdad, there were street lights while Europe was in total darkness. They did not even know what is a street lamp. There were paving in Baghdad, whereas there was no paving in Europe. So Europe was totally immersed in dark ages. But the Muslims made a wonderful contribution. They said anybody in the entire world is invited to come here to the Muslim Caliphate, to the Muslim land. For 800 years, peace prevailed in the world, and the focus was on knowledge, education, and building top universities on the better than Oxford and Harvard and Cambridge universities, or Wits University or Cape Town, the top university in the world. And you know what they said? They said you can send any student. You can be a Christian, agnostic, atheist, it doesn't matter. Bring them to our university. We will give them free education. They don't have to pay university fees. We will give them free accommodation. We'll give them free food. We'll even give them free tickets once a year to go back home. You know, in those days it was horse and cart, whichever way they went home, or by ship. We will look after you. The only condition was, in the first year of university study, every student had to learn Arabic because the textbooks were in Arabic. So what these students did, like Roger Bacon and others, so these students from Europe, the Christians were coming from Europe to come study at the Muslim universities. They knew Arabic and were studying the Muslim textbooks. They then went to Europe, and they made it as if it was their knowledge. And because even in today's times, the West is masters at the media, and the masters in propaganda, and the masters in marketing, and we give them due credit. And when it comes to marketing things, like Hollywood celebrities, if they want to promote a new movie, they know how to do it. They are masters at marketing and PR campaign. So in those days, when they learned something, they didn't give the credit to the Muslims. They say, hey, we found this. And then the marketing wheels start going to say, hey, Europe made this discovery. But it is not Europe that made the discovery, it is the Muslims. So let's continue with this, right? The next quotation. Science is the momentous contribution of Arab civilization to the modern world, but its fruits were slow in ripening. Not long after Moorish culture had sunk back into darkness did the giant which it had given birth to rise in his might. It was not science only which brought Europe back to life. Other and manifold influences from the civilization of Islam communicated its first glow to European life. Next quote. For although there is not a single aspect of European growth in which the decisive influence of Islamic culture is not traceable, nowhere is it so clear and momentous as in the genesis of that power which constitutes the permanent distinctive force of the modern world and the supreme source of its victory, natural science and the scientific spirit. Next quote. The debt of our science to that of the Arabs does not consist in startling discoveries of revolutionary theories. Science owes a great deal more to Arab culture. It owes its very existence. Subhanallah. Good for him to acknowledge this. Alhamdulillah, we give him due credit. Right. The ancient world was, as we saw, pre-scientific. The astronomy and mathematics of the Greeks were a foreign importation, never thoroughly acclimatized in Greek culture. The Greeks systematized, generalized, and theorized, but the patient ways of investigation, the accumulation of positive knowledge, the minute methods of science, detailed and prolonged observation, and experimental inquiry were altogether alien to Greek temperament. Only in Hellenistic Alexandria was any approach to scientific work conducted in the ancient classical world. What we call science arose in Europe as a result of a new spirit of inquiry, of new methods of investigation, of the method of experiment, of observation, of measurement, of the development of mathematics in a form unknown to the Greeks. That spirit and these methods were introduced into the European world by the Arabs. In inverted commas, the Muslims, in inverted commas, were inspired by Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Say well, look after yourself. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.